They say every day is for the thief, one day for the owner of the house. But ICPC, the Anti-Corruption Commission, has reversed the role. It is now every day for the owner of the house. If you're involved in bribery, over-invoicing, or any shady deal, the day of reckoning has come. ICPC, the Anti-Corruption Commission, is watching you. If you're reported for any corrupt practice, you'll be investigated, prosecuted, and punished. Corruption is harmful to our nation. Join the campaign against it by reporting any corrupt practice to ICPC, the Anti-Corruption Commission.
Let we join hands with ICPC, make them better.
Let's make Nigeria great again.
ICPC, they want you.
Come on, hand for corruption.
Break the chain of corruption now. Don't give, don't take. This message is brought to you by ICPC, the Anti-Corruption Commission.
According to findings, security votes have become a self-perpetuating cause and consequence of systemic corruption. While the vote is practically meant for sporadic issues of security in states, it's been revealed that governors spend part of the money on security agencies that ordinarily would have been funded by the government. Today on the program, we shall focus on the second quarterly anti-corruption policy dialogue on accountability for security votes. I am Hawa Garba. Welcome to Corruption Must Go, ICPC's weekly television program. Also on the program, we shall bring you a bit of character molding drama, ethics and values, and more. But first, Murna Barnabas Atiaye is standing by with updates on happenings around the commission. Over to you, Murna.
Corruption not in my country.
Madam, no. These drugs are very scarce, so we don't have them here. Go to the next building. There's a paying pharmacy there. You buy it from there.
The drugs I have on my list of prescription is what I am seeing here.
Do you know the packets are empty or they're expired? I mean, go and buy drugs from the next pharmacy. You're telling me my own job. Rubbish.
Tell me another lie, because I was here yesterday when this new set of drugs were delivered here.
Don't see the drugs, though. I didn't know I was on leave yesterday. Why you not tell me say that good for nothing, prognosing doctor? Now said you come here.
Hey, I heard that. Do you know how many lives you will save by giving out those drugs? Or do you know how many lives you are killing by holding those same drugs? You are the same set of people saying that government is corrupt. Government is corrupt. Now you are at your duty post. Are you not corrupt? You are sacked. Yes, because that is corruption. Not in my country.
Stop corruption now.
Corruption not in my country.
Thank you, Hawa. Welcome to this segment of Anti-Corruption Stories. I am Murna Barnabas Atiaye. The recently launched collaboration between the National Social Investment Office and ICPC to root out corruption in the social investment programs has begun to yield positive results, as 2 persons involved with the program in Kogi State are currently under arrest by ICPC for alleged 68 million naira fraud. The suspects include Honorable Adoga Ibrahim and Khadijat Karibo. While Ibrahim was appointed the state focal person in 2016 for the National Homegrown School Feeding Program for Kogi State and left office in May 2019, Karibo is still serving as the state's program manager. A petition alleging that the erstwhile state focal person and the program manager had connived and diverted large sums of money meant for payments to cooks in the National School Feeding Program in Kogi State was received by ICPC. The petition alleged that the DOE had perpetrated unlawful and unethical deductions from the accounts of cooks by the use of letters purportedly signed by them conveying their consent that a blanket and unspecified amount be moved to 10 different business accounts from the cook's accounts for sundry aggregated commodity supplies. The petition further alleged that the massive fraudulent actions were pulled off by the officials acting in concert with some banks in the state. Preliminary findings from ICPC investigations indicate that for the program to aggregate food items, The request must come from a state governor clearly stating the names and details of suppliers to the national coordinator of the program for approval. This approval was lacking in the case under investigation, as Honorable Adoga only submitted a request in September 2018 but could not present evidence of an approval. Hence, money was paid directly by the program to the cooks' accounts. However, further findings indicate that the focal person and the state program manager, in violation of the rights of the cooks, directed banks to place a lien on their accounts, which were complied with, and thereafter had a total sum of over 40 million naira transferred from the accounts of 627 cooks to the accounts of 10 companies out of the money meant for January 2019 feeding program for 20 days. Other acts of corruption discovered in the Kogi program include the fact that after cooks had signed the issuance voucher for the release of foodstuffs, storekeepers would release lesser quantities, and also that some foodstuff supplies for monies deducted from cooks' accounts were never paid, neither were the monies refunded nor accounted for. The NSIO had approached ICPC for a collaboration to get rid of corruption in the implementation of the federal government's SIPs, namely school feeding for pupils, cash transfers to very poor people, enterprise and empowerment program, and NPower. The recent launch of the collaboration featured the unveiling of a dedicated toll-free hotline 0800 called ICPC for reporting corruption in the programs. The International Association of Ombudsmen, under the auspices of Public Complaints Commission, PCC, has offered to join forces with the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, to aid grievance handling while providing better governance and driving performance in government organizations in the country. The group made this known during a courtesy visit to the chairman of the commission, Professor Bolaji Owasonyi, at the commission's headquarters in Abuja recently. The leader of the group, Ms. Dofan Lois of PCC, who spoke on behalf of the group, said that the purpose of their visit was to take a study tour of the commission, intimate themselves with the general duties of ICPC, and offer to collaborate with the commission for the achievement of its mandate. In his response, the ICPC chairman, Professor Bolaji Owasonyi, explained that the commission's threefold mandate of enforcement, prevention, as well as public education and enlightenment focuses broadly on corruption other than just economic crimes and money laundering.
Where we fit into the space, basically the anti-corruption measures, I said earlier on that the focus and the mandate of the commission is wider than those of other agencies like CCB, for example. CCB is strictly focused on getting records of the assets of public officers, only public officers. So, roughly all over the country, if you like, about 2 million people, roughly speaking. The EFCC is focused on economic and financial crimes, strictly speaking, including money laundering. ICPC's mandate is corruption, and all those other things includes corruption is bigger than all those. So the mandate is somewhat wider. The way we do laws in Nigeria, it enables agencies to use their own statute to prosecute, use another statute that prohibits the offense. So if there's an offense that is not specifically prohibited by your statute, sometimes you have the latitude to charge under that other legislation. So if you were a lawyer, for example, and you looked at some of the cases, you could find EFCC prosecuting with ICPC statute and vice versa, because we usually leave a window open. If you do investigation and you need to go to court, you suddenly realize that this particular act is not prohibited under your statute. You don't have to drop the case. You can prosecute under another legislation.
Professor Owasonyi explained the enforcement part, saying that the commission was empowered to enforce not just its own laws, but all the other laws that prohibit corruption, and that the preventive prong of the mandate enabled the Commission to take preventive measures to diminish or prevent corruption from happening by examining systems and processes of public institutions that were prone to corruption. On the public education and enlightenment aspect of the mandate, the ICPC both explained how the Commission was interfacing with the larger society and various organizations working within it to enlist their support in the anti-corruption fight through messaging that discourages corruption. Professor Owasonye further pointed out that in line with international best practices and to help the country meet the sustainable development goals, the Commission has escalated its efforts around asset recovery, which as a major enforcement measure deprives corruption culprits of the fruits of their crime. At the end of the visit, the delegation also took a tour around the Commission premises, such as the forensic lab, recording studio, interrogation room, the detention facility, etc. That's it on this segment. Corruption Must Go continues with Hawa.
If you are just tuning in, this is Corruption Must Go. There is a lot of controversy around the handling of security votes. Payments from such votes are often made in cash and with minimal record keeping. It was against this backdrop that the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, in conjunction with its training and research arm, the Anti-Corruption Academy of Nigeria, ACAN, recently held the second edition of its quarterly anti-corruption policy dialogue with a push for accountability in the handling of security votes by relevant government officials. Delivering his address during the policy dialogue, which was held at the Commission's headquarters in Abuja, ICPC Chairman Professor Bolaji Owasonye said the Commission decided to focus on security votes as it was an easy and attractive route for stealing public funds and a veritable avenue for abuse of public trust. Owasonye also declared that the outcome of the dialogue would assist ACAN to produce a policy brief with actionable recommendations for stakeholders in all arms of government.
People may wonder, why are we focusing on security votes? The simple answer is that it is an easy and an attractive route for stealing public funds, and is a veritable avenue for the abuse of public trust, the escalation of poverty and underdevelopment, and ironically, the escalation of insecurity. In other words, the permission of appropriation for security votes has, in our own context, rather than diminish insecurity, because money that could ordinarily be available for social and economic development is appropriated as security votes and used discretionarily, it has pushed up insecurity somewhat. This is not to say that we do not need security votes. In the 2019 budget, as appropriated, for example, 162 MDAs had money appropriated for them as security votes. These MDAs span boards, centers, committees, ministries, commissions, councils, forests, national parks, hospitals, polytechnics, secondary schools, universities, law enforcement agencies, obviously the armed forces and intelligence services. While I do not wish to preempt your views and the very important conversation that will come from this dialogue, the number and the category of MDAs given security votes suggest that something is wrong with our parameters for determining those who are entitled to security votes. So this provokes some questions, which hopefully will be answered at this dialogue, and which I'm pretty sure Dr. Fahimi's keynote will address somewhat. Which MDAs are entitled to security vote? Who should get it? What are the parameters for determining the amount of security votes that is required? What should security votes be used for? And so let me note from the very outset that your presence here is crucial to the success of the anti-corruption thrust of the government and the implementation of the National Anti-Corruption Strategy, which was adopted in 2017. Amongst other things, the anti-corruption strategy requires us to introduce systemic improvements to diminish corruption and the abuse of public funds. Indeed, if all stakeholders embrace and perform their roles as anticipated by the anti-corruption strategy, it is possible for us to diminish in the short to medium term and in the long term to prevent the abuse of public funds to such an extent that requirements for enforcement action and recovery of stolen or diverted public assets will be significantly reduced.
You are still watching Corruption Must Go. The second anti-corruption policy dialogue had in attendance dignitaries such as the Governor of Ekiti State, Dr. Kayode Fayemi, Vice Chairman of the Senate Committee on Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes, Senator Aliyu Wamoko, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, and others. In his keynote address titled "Security Votes, Are They Necessary? Are They Legitimate?" the Governor of Ekiti State, Dr. Kayode Fayemi, said that without security, there could not be development, which explained the different modalities put in place by governments to cover security matters, which include security votes.
Security vote is an amount spent on security by heads of government, with or without legislative appropriation and without the requirement of disclosure on how the money is spent. Human Rights Watch defines security vote as a budget line that is meant to act as a source of discretionary spending that the executive arm of government can use to respond quickly and effectively to threats of peace and threats to peace and security within their jurisdiction. And the origin is actually traced to the United States, where Congress had surreptitiously enacted and approved confidential funding and partaking in the planning, financing, and implementation of some national security funding. And of course, this happens a lot. In the days of the Cold War, there are a lot of things that countries do that they don't want in the full glare of the public.
Dr. Fayemi, who is also the chairman of the Nigeria Governors Forum, further stated,
I'm not an SAN, so you cannot quote me. I'm not Robert Clark, but he mentioned that, and I think it's a point to address. Because some have questioned the legality of security votes. But in my own humble opinion, a combined reading of Section 6 of the Nigerian National Security Agencies Act, 1986, and Section 315 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic provides solid legality for provisioning for security votes. Section 6D of the NSA Act that I mentioned grants the President sweeping powers to make provisions for such other matters after listing several things that the President can do. It then said, for such other matters concerning or incidental to any of the matters mentioned in this Act as the President may deem fit. And Section 315 of the 1999 Constitution legalizes existing laws, invariably according them legal validity. Yes, the Constitution supersedes all laws, but many of the subsidiary laws are also legal and legitimate. There is also a correlation between security votes and contingencies fund provided for under Section 83 of the 1999 Constitution. In fact, when you look at many state appropriation acts, you hardly find the word security vote there. What you are likely to find is contingency votes, and the Constitution provides adequately for that.
While delivering a paper on corruption risks in the utilization of security votes and how to mitigate them, the Secretary to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Mr. Olanipekun Olukoyede, labeled the security vote as slush funds made available to the whims and caprices of CEOs of MDAs.
Now the problem I have is the issue of auditing, probably as a matter of course or tradition, they don't audit security votes. Now what we are talking about here is a bit different from audit. I work for law enforcement agencies, so I'm talking of criminal investigation. If it's not open to audit, I can tell you it's open to criminal investigation. Now the issue is how, and I can tell you we have done so many of it in EFCC, and I believe ICPC would have also had a bit of it as well. And of course the governor has been jailed or convicted, like you know, in Nigeria, and one of the facts in issue in that case was security vote. And the court heard us, and based on that, he was convicted. So we need to demystify this idea of you can't investigate it, you can't audit it, and I don't know where this idea is coming from. And we have all come to accept it, we have all come to agree. As we are talking to you, we are investigating security vote in so many states. And there is no court of law that has stopped us.
Also speaking on the subject matter, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Yusuf Buratai, described the dialogue as apt and timely, and stressed the need for the security votes to be subjected to audit and scrutiny.
Let me make this submission to say that this security vote is also subject to audit. If it is not done, then it is quite wrong. But I believe security votes should also be subject to audit. According to Robert Clark, a senior advocate of Nigeria, said that it is not constitutional. And what happened? For how long has this security vote been operated unconstitutionally? We should also take note that the security vote is not a defense vote. It's not meant for the armed forces. Let me also state here that security vote is not meant, strictly speaking, is not meant, if you look at it in the true context, it's not meant to tackle insecurity. These are all food for thought as the dialogue goes on. It's not meant to tackle insecurity.
At the end of the ideas sharing section, which saw a lot of brilliant contributions from some of the discussants in attendance, it was agreed that security votes should be accounted for and be made available to only MDAs with security-related functions or mandates. It was also agreed that an Act of Parliament be proposed for the legalization of accountability in the handling of security votes. That's our package on today's edition. Remember, you can make inquiries and suggestions via our toll-free numbers as shown on the screen. You can also watch the program on our YouTube channel, www.youtube.com/ICPC Nigeria. From us in the studio, it's bye for now.